single dad hired a babysitter for his twin daughters, unaware she was the billionaire CEO's daughter in disguise. The hallway echoed with the clash of toys and the hum of the microwave as two 4-year-olds argued over who got more marshmallows in their cocoa. Ethan Walker, 32, stood in the kitchen, phone cradled between his shoulder and ear, one hand stopping a cereal bowl from tipping over. His voice, though quiet, was edged with desperation. "This is the last time I'm begging," he muttered. "If no one shows up, I'm bringing them to work tomorrow or quitting again." This was the third sitter in 8 weeks. All had left. Lily and Mia weren't bad kids. They were just a lot. He sighed and hung up, turning just in time to see Mia chasing Lily with a spoonful of peanut butter. "Girls, please," he said, stepping between them. "Let's try for one night without a food fight." The doorbell rang. The girls froze. So did he. Ethan opened the door, expecting someone middle-aged, tired, probably already regretting taking the job. Instead, there she was, a young woman. Tall, blonde, with a calm confidence in her eyes and a wool sweater that made her look more like a grad student than a nanny. She carried a canvas tote. Snow dusted her boots. "You're the sitter?" he asked. She nodded. "Claire, nice to meet you." He looked her over, skeptical. "You don't look like someone who needs this job." She smiled. "Maybe I just need the right kind of chaos." Before he could reply, Mia darted out from behind him. "Are you here to play unicorns?" Claire knelt. "Only if I get to be the pink one." Lily followed, holding a half-full sippy cup of orange juice. She bumped into Claire, and the juice splashed all over the woman's boots. Time stopped. Ethan tensed, ready to scold, but Claire calmly looked down and said, "Well, I did say I needed a little mess." The girls laughed. Claire smiled and dabbed at the mess with a tissue from her bag like it happened every day. Ethan watched. The last sitter would have stormed out by now. But Claire, she looked like she had just stepped into something she was ready for. Over the next 10 minutes, she sat cross-legged on the floor, chatting with the girls about their favorite toys and snacks. They warmed to her fast, too. Fast. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms folded, observing. Eventually, Claire stood. "I brought some storybooks and a few age-appropriate games." "That okay?" He nodded. "Yeah, that's fine." Silence settled between them. Not awkward, just curious. Her curio. "You're not from around here," he said. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "No, just needed a change of pace." "You a student?" "Not anymore. Worked with kids this young before?" She paused for a beat. "Not exactly, but I learned fast. And I'm good with feelings." He raised an eyebrow. "Feelings?" She looked at him sincere. "That's usually what kids need the most, right? Someone who knows how to listen, even when they can't find the words." He was not expecting that. He just nodded. Slowly, Mia handed Claire a tattered stuffed bunny. Claire accepted it like it was made of gold. The girls were already chattering with her like they had known her forever. That never happened. Not with strangers, not even with family. Ethan checked the clock. "I have to be up by 5, he said. "You okay with early mornings?" Claire smiled. "I'll bring the coffee." He looked away before she could see the flicker in his eyes. Later, as she helped the twins carry their blankets into the living room to build a story fort, Ethan leaned against the door frame and murmured to himself, "Maybe, just maybe, sometimes it only takes one person to shift everything. One knock, one unexpected voice in the chaos, and everything begins to change." If you've ever believed that love can walk in when you least expect it, and that healing begins with the smallest acts of care, tap the hype button and stay with us. This story is only just beginning. Claire had once negotiated pharmaceutical deals across time zones, and defended budgets in ruthless boardrooms. But nothing prepared her for Lily and Mia. On her second day, she walked into the living room and found couch cushions stacked like a pyramid, the girls jumping wildly on top. "Safety is optional in this house," Lily shouted. "Gravity is just a suggestion," Mia yelled. Claire blinked. "Okay, that's fine. Just chaos. Manageable chaos." By lunch, Mia had fed half her mac and cheese to the neighbor's dog through a fence Claire didn't know existed. Lily had decorated the sliding door with yogurt art. Claire stood there, ponytail slipping, applesauce on her sleeve, thinking, "My father always said leadership is about control. Right now, I have none." That night, after bedtime, Claire stared at the hairbrush in her hand. Earlier, Mia had begged for a princess braid. Claire had failed miserably. Her fingers trained for pins and signatures couldn't manage a braid, so she opened YouTube. How to French braid toddler hair. One video became 5. She practiced on a towel, then a pillow. At nearly 3 a.m., she managed something decent. The next morning when Mia asked again, "Can I be Rapunzel today?" Claire knelt down and smiled. "Of course, sweet girl." Mia stared at her reflection in. "Oh, you did it," she whispered. Lily added, "You're like magic." Claire grinned. "Just practice and maybe a little midnight fairy dust." It felt better than any corporate win. From the hallway, Ethan watched. She was still here. After the couch jumping, the yogurt, the chaos, she stayed. He stepped into the kitchen. "You're still alive." "Barely," Claire replied. "Unless today includes glitter and peanut butter in the laundry," he chuckled. "That happened once. Just once." Ethan noticed how she moved, uncertain, but never quitting. That meant something. In the days that followed, Claire adapted to the girls' rhythms. She read stories not from books, but ones she invented. There once was a CEO of the forest, she told them one night. A very serious squirrel who loved charts. Until 2 chipmunks stole her spreadsheets. The girls shrieked with laughter as Claire acted out the tale, with silly voices and wild gestures. Ethan stood in the hallway listening. He should have been working, but that laughter pulled him in. He hadn't heard it in this house since before. Then one morning, a different kind of storm rolled in. Mia woke up flushed, her forehead hot. She wouldn't eat, barely moved. Claire's heart raced. Illness in her world was a problem to reschedule, not a frightened child with watery eyes. She moved quickly. Cool. Towel. Water. Calm whispers. She found a thermometer, took a reading, and texted Ethan. He offered to come home. She replied, "I've got it." And she did. She stayed by Mia's side all day, reading softly, brushing hair back, holding her hand until the fever broke. That evening, Ethan came home, but he stopped. In the hallway, Claire had fallen asleep on the floor beside Mia's bed. Her head rested gently on the mattress, one hand still holding Mia's. The lights were dim. A picture book lay open beside them. Marker stained her wrist. Her braid was half undone. Mia's face was peaceful. Ethan stood still, watching, feeling something stir. He had hired Claire out of desperation. Expected her to last 3 days, for at most. But this wasn't just someone doing her job. She had entered their lives fully, quietly. And maybe, just maybe, she was exactly what they'd all been waiting for. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon when Ethan noticed something that didn't fit. Claire had kicked off her shoes at the door like always. She never needed to be told. Somehow, she just understood the rhythms of his house. But as the sunlight slanted through the window, it caught the leather of her flats. Ethan paused. They weren't flashy. Clean lines, soft beige tone, understated elegance, but he had a good eye. These weren't just any shoes. They were Loro. Bruni limited edition flats, the kind not sold in stores, the kind sent only to select clients who lived in penthouses, not small rental homes near quiet woods. He said nothing, but something settled in the back of his mind. That evening, they took the girls out for burgers and crayon-colored tablecloths at a local diner. The twins bickered over which shade was the real pink, while Ethan tried to enjoy a moment of normal. Then the waiter came. Claire smiled politely. "I'll have the roast chicken with herb sauce, please." The waiter blinked. Sure. Roasted chicken. Got it." Ethan looked up, eyebrows raised. "You speak French?" he asked. Claire sipped her water. "A little." "That wasn't a little. That was Paris. Level perfect." "You grow up in France?" She hesitated just a fraction of a second. "Boarding school," she said quickly, then turned back to the girls. "Helping Mia with her coloring." Ethan didn't push it. Not yet. But questions started building quietly. The shoes, the accent, the way she carried herself like someone who'd been trained to blend in, not grow up there. That night, after the twins were in bed, Claire sat at the kitchen table, organizing markers and glitter glue for tomorrow's space day. The dishwasher hummed. A breeze tapped gently at the window. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms folded. "You ever going to tell me where you're really from?" Claire looked up. Her hands stilled, but her expression didn't change. "Calm, careful." She gave a small, tired smile. "Somewhere I couldn't breathe." He nodded slowly. He understood more than she knew. There were no more questions that night. But he didn't forget. A week later, Ethan overheard her mention a birthday. Hers, while helping the girls write cards for their cousin. "October birthdays always get forgotten," she had murmured, mostly to herself. She never mentioned it again, but he remembered. That evening, after the girls were tucked in, Claire came downstairs in her usual quiet way and stopped. The kitchen table had been cleared. Two mismatched candles flickered in chipped ceramic holders. A plate of warm pancakes sat in the middle, surrounded by bowls of cold strawberries, melting chocolate chips, and whipped cream. Above the window, taped with colorful washi tape, hung a banner made of construction paper. "Happy birthday, Claire." Ethan stood by the stove, drying his hands on a towel. "You said once you liked breakfast for dinner," he said simply. "Thought I'd make it official." Claire blinked at the table, then at him. "You remembered that?" He gave a small shrug. "You also said strawberries aren't worth eating unless they're cold, and chocolate chips don't count unless they melt." Claire stepped forward slowly, as if unsure whether she should sit. There were no presents, no balloons, no music, just pancakes, a crooked banner, and a man who had been listening when no one else had. She picked up her fork, then paused. "This is the nicest birthday I've had in a very long time." Ethan looked down. "It's just pancakes." Claire smiled. "It's not." She didn't need to say thank you. It was in the way she looked at the candles, the way she closed her eyes for a moment before taking a bite, like trying to remember the feeling. He didn't speak. He just watched her. And for the first time since she'd stepped into his world, Ethan realized something simple, terrifying, and true. He didn't just hope she would stay. He was afraid she wouldn't. Claire stared at the email on her phone, her thumb hovering above the reply button. The subject line was short, sharp, and direct, just like everything from her father's office. Confidential board review. Kensington. Succession schedule location NYCQ time 10 o'clock IM 2 weeks from today. Her fingers trembled slightly as she read it again. The board was preparing to vote on her future, whether she would be formally named as heir to one of the largest pharmaceutical empires in the world, but there was a condition: 60 days her father's challenge live without staff. wealth, or title, take a low-wage job, live on her own, understand the value of real work, as he put it. She had chosen this job, babysitter to 2 4-year-olds, not knowing it would feel less like a job and more like a beginning. He locked her phone, tucked it in the drawer, and went to check on the girls. Lily and Mia were playing near the front porch with sidewalk chalk. Claire crouched beside them, complimenting their rainbow tiger. A strangely realistic tiger with green wings. Can we draw you next? Mia asked. Claire smiled. Only if I get wings too. But then came the scream. It was sharp and sudden, and it cut through Claire like a blade. Lily had slipped on a patch of gravel near the steps and landed hard on her arm. Her face crumpled, her cries loud and panicked. Claire rushed to her, checking for broken bones. Lily was clutching her wrist, wincing in pain. Minutes later, they were at the clinic. Claire held Lily in her arms as they waited, stroking her hair and whispering that everything would be okay. Mia sat beside them, unusually quiet, clinging to Claire's coat. Ethan arrived breathless, worry etched into every line on his face. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on Lily and then on Claire. He knelt beside them, touching Lily's cheek. You're okay, baby. Daddy's here. Claire stood to give him space, but Ethan gently touched her arm. Thank you for staying with them. You didn't have to, he added quietly, his voice low, rough around the edges. Claire looked at him, eyes steady. But I wanted to, and she meant it, every word. After the doctor examined Lily, just a sprain. Thankfully, they returned home with instructions for rest and ice. That night, as Claire sat in the kitchen writing Lily's care notes on a sticky pad, her phone buzzed again. Dad. Incoming call. She stared at the screen. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. Then she answered. His voice was ice. Do you realize what you've just done? Claire stayed calm. She fell. She was hurt. I took her to the clinic. You missed a preparatory call with the board. She's 4. Claire said softly. You think sentimentality builds empires? He snapped. You have 20 board members, questioning whether you're serious about this. I am serious, she replied, her voice firmer now. But I'm also human, and that little girl needed someone. A long pause. You get one warning, her father said coldly. 1. If you miss that meeting in New York, do not bother coming back. The name, the company, it will no longer be yours. He hung up. Claire stood there, the phone still pressed to her ear, listening to the silence that followed. She felt the weight of both worlds pressing down. One, cold and towering, built on discipline and legacy. The other small and loud and messy, full of sticky fingers and chalk tigers, but somehow warmer, truer. She turned off the kitchen light and walked quietly down the hallway. The girls were asleep. Lily's wrist was bandaged, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her good arm. Ethan was in the living room, reviewing code on his laptop. He looked up when she entered. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Just a call. He didn't ask more. He never pushed. But for the first time, Claire wished he would. Because part of her wanted to say everything about the board, the test, the inheritance, the pressure. But not tonight. Not yet. Instead, she sat across from him in the quiet. The space between them filled with something unsaid but understood. 2 people, each, carrying more than they ever admitted. The late afternoon sun filtered through the curtains. Claire stood in the kitchen, drying dishes while the girls played nearby. Ethan, repairing a loose chair leg, glanced at her now and then. He had noticed it, the tension in her shoulders, how she stared at her phone too long, and how her eyes lingered on the girls' laughter like she was memorizing them. He was overweight, Mick said. Not by. She dried the last plate and turned I need to tell you something, she said, steady but quiet. Ethan stood, sensing a shift. I didn't come here by accident, Claire said. It was part of a condition, my father's. He's the CEO of Kensington Pharmaceuticals. Ethan blinked. Hell wanted me to prove I understood the value of real life, real work. Before I could take over, I had to live like everyone else. Take a normal job. So this was a test, he asked, voice flat. Claire nodded at first. But a test? He repeated sharper. Some kind of social experiment? No, she said quickly. Yes, that's how it started, but it stopped being that. I didn't expect to find this. You them, Ethan's jaw tightened. I stayed. Because I wanted to, she added, stepping forward. I chose this. He looked away, eyes cold. So, you were pretending the whole time. I wasn't, she whispered. Every story, every braid, every panic overspilled juice. That was real. They made it real. But you lied to me. Claire's lips trembled. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you without losing it all. I've never had this before. His voice dropped. Neither have I. And now I don't know what any of it meant. She looked at him through tears. I'm sorry. Ethan said nothing. Claire turned, brushing the doorway. I'll get my things. He didn't stop her. That silence hurt more than shouting ever could. From the hallway, two small figures crouched behind the bedroom door. Lily clutched Mia's hand. Both had heard everything. Claire walked past them with a weak smile. She knelt down. I'll see you again soon. Okay. Mia opened her mouth, but Claire stood too fast and walked away. Her steps faded down the hall. The door clicked shut behind her. Ethan stood alone in the kitchen, staring at where she had stood. That's what happens when people like her pretend to care, he muttered bitterly. A small voice broke the quiet. She didn't pretend. Mia stood in the doorway, cheeks strewn with tears, fists clenched. She's our real Claire, she cried. Lily appeared beside her, lip trembling. She makes up stories about magic animals. Lily said. She reads even when she's tired. She stayed with me when I was sick, Mia added. She braided her hair and kissed us goodnight. She makes pancakes with chocolate chips, Lily whispered. Even when you forget. Daddy. Ethan knelt slowly. The girls ran into his arms, burying their faces in his chest. He held them tightly, and in that moment, he realized what he'd done. Not just to Claire, but to them. He'd guarded his heart so fiercely. He'd forgotten theirs were wide open. Children didn't love carefully, they loved fully and fast. He closed his eyes, unsure what hurt more, the sense of betrayal or the thought that maybe he was the one who had failed. Upstairs, Claire sat alone, folding the few clothes she'd brought. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She hadn't expected forgiveness, but she had hoped for understanding. Now all she had was silence. Lily sat at the kitchen table, with her tongue poking out between her lips, focusing hard. Mia scribbled next. To her with a purple crayon, her little hand moving in uneven strokes across the page. Claire had been gone for 3 days. 3 very long, very quiet days. Ethan had done his best. More bedtime stories. Pancakes for dinner. Even letting the girls jump on the couch once. But the house still felt too still. The laughter was gone. The rhythm they didn't realize they had built gone with her. Mia set her crayon down and frowned. Do you think he'll even read it? Lily nodded. Confidently. He's a grown-up. Grown-ups read letters. Together, they folded the paper carefully and slid it into an envelope. With Ethan's help, they addressed it in bold block letters. Mr. To Robert Kensington, CEO of Kensington Pharmaceuticals. Then they mailed it in Manhattan. The envelope, colorful, crayon-covered and slightly smudged, made its way through the marble lobby of Kensington HQ. Normally, Robert Kensington ignored anything not typed and signed by someone in a suit, but this one was different. It said very important in purple ink. So instead of handing it off, he opened it. Dear Mr. Kensington, we don't know about business, but Claire made us breakfast, read us stories, and held our hands when we were scared. She's not pretending. She's our family. From Mia and Lily. He read it again and again. It was simple, honest, so utterly human, and it stopped him in a way no board report ever had. The next morning, without telling anyone, not even Claire, he instructed his driver to head 2 hours north. In a small-town park, Claire stood beneath a leafy tree, sleeves rolled up, hair pulled into a low braid. Before her sat 6 neighborhood kids on a blanket, eyes wide with attention. Courtesy, he stepped back, pretending. She pointed to a drawing of a heart. So, what do we do when we feel our hearts beating too fast? Breathe, one child said. Like a dragon, another added, puffing out their cheeks. Claire laughed. Exactly. Big dragon breaths to help us feel safe again. It was part of a free health class she'd started. Simple, heartfelt, and unadvertised. She hadn't told Ethan. She hadn't told her father. It just felt right like her. From a distance behind the tree and 2 men stood in silence. Robert Kensington and Ethan Walker. Ethan hadn't planned to stop. He'd been driving by when he caught a glimpse of Claire's golden braid in the breeze. Something in him told him to park and stay. He watched her, gentle, calm, present. Not the woman from the corporate world she had confessed about. Not the daughter trying to meet a father's impossible expectations, just Claire. And for the first time, Ethan saw her clearly. After the session, Claire packed up her flip chart and supplies. Tucked under her arm was something small, Mia's stuffed unicorn. She had found it earlier that morning, wedged under the couch. She could have mailed it or dropped it off later, but something tugged at her to go now. So she walked up the porch steps and knocked. The door opened almost instantly. Ethan stood there like he had been waiting. Claire held out the toy. Mia left this, she said softly. He took it, their fingers brushing. Neither of them said anything at first. Claire turned to go. I saw you, Ethan said. She stopped. At the park, he added. You didn't come here to explain? No, Claire said. I just couldn't keep something that mattered to her. Ethan looked down at the unicorn, then back at Claire. Her eyes were tired, but clear. Her coat was too thin for the wind, and her braid had come loose. But she looked real, unpolished, honest. You stayed when she was sick, he said. You braided their hair. You made them laugh. That wasn't part of the test, was it? Claire shook her head. It was the part one chose. There was a long pause. Then he nodded slowly, almost to himself. They stood there, 2 people on either side of a threshold. Both changed, both softened, still cautious, but no longer closed off. For the first time, Ethan's eyes misted. Not from anger, not even from grief, but from something quieter. Recognition, understanding, maybe forgiveness. Claire didn't try to fill the silence, and Ethan didn't ask her to. Sometimes the most important things are said without words. The house smelled like cinnamon and melted chocolate. Claire stood at the counter, helping Mia crack an egg into a mixing bowl, while Lily stirred the dry ingredients with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Ethan was beside them rolling dough with a wine bottle. They still did not own a proper rolling pin, and stealing glances at Claire when she was not looking. It had been a slow return. No grand declarations, no dramatic apologies, just quiet dinners, little smiles. One night of Claire dropping off a book for the girls, then another night of staying for tea until finally Ethan had said, stay for dinner tomorrow. The girls are requesting your presence strongly, and she had. Now they were baking cookies for no reason other than the fact that Mia had announced it's a cookie emergency. Lily licked some batter off her finger and looked up at Ethan. "Daddy, can we keep her?" Ethan froze. Claire looked up too, her cheeks flushed pink, but not from the oven. "Like forever," Mia added. "Like adopt her into our house." Ethan cleared his throat. "That's not really how grown-ups work, sweet." "But she fits," Lily said simply. "Like a puzzle piece." Claire reached out, gently taking Ethan's hand. "I failed my test," she said softly but clearly. "But I found what I really want. Not a company, a family." Ethan looked down at her hand and his, then at the girls. Flower in their hair, joy in their eyes, and nodded once. "I think you passed the right test." The moment was warm, light, almost magical, until a knock came at the door. Ethan wiped his hands on a towel and opened it only to stop cold. Standing on the porch in a dark overcoat, his silver hair neatly combed, was Robert Kensington, Claire's father. Claire stepped beside Ethan, stunned. "Dad." Robert looked at her, then at Ethan, then passed them into the kitchen where the girls were peeking around the corner. "I was in the neighborhood," Robert said dryly. 2 hours out of my way." "Did someone send you the cookie emergency memo?" Claire asked, voice cautious but trying to be light. "I got another kind of memo," he said, holding up a folded piece of paper. Ethan's heart skipped. It was the letter, the girl's letter. Robert looked at Ethan. His expression was unreadable. "I thought I was preparing my daughter to lead a company," he said slowly. "That was my failure because what she found was something far more difficult, more necessary." Ethan braced himself for judgment, for disapproval, for some cold insult, disguised as a compliment. The compliment, but Robert's voice softened. "I used to think I needed a CEO," he said, eyes fixed on Ethan. "But maybe what this world needs is more fathers like you." Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. Claire stepped closer to her father. "Does this mean?" Robert gave a small nod. "The board is yours when you're ready, but only if you want it." Claire's eyes welled up. "And if I don't?" she asked. "Then you still won?" he said. It was the first time in years he had said something to her that did not sound like a demand or an instruction, just truth. Claire smiled, stepped forward, and hugged him. Not stiffly, not out of obligation, but with real quiet love. That night, after the girls had gone to bed with bellies full of cookies and faces sticky with chocolate, Ethan and Claire sat on the back porch with 2 mugs of tea. He looked at her, silhouetted in the soft glow of the porch light, and said, "You really failed that test, huh?" Claire grinned. "Spectacularly." Ethan chuckled. "Glad you did." She leaned, her head on his shoulder. "Me too." There were no titles out here, no boardrooms, no legacy to protect, just 2 people, a porch, and a couple of kids upstairs who believed in family more than any adult ever dared to. An imperfect family, perhaps, but a real one. The smell of vanilla and brown butter filled the kitchen. Sunlight poured through the windows in warm stripes as Ethan flipped pancakes with quiet focus. His Mia and Lily stood on chairs beside him, aprons trailing the floor. One had Claire scribbled across the front in crayon. "Chocolate chips ready?" Ethan asked. "Ready." "Strawberries sliced?" "Ready." Secret message in progress. Ethan drizzled maple syrup onto the top. Pancake, forming shaky but heartfelt letters. "Will you be our forever?" Mia clapped. "She's going to cry." Happy tears. Lily whispered. They carried the tray together, twins leading the way, Ethan behind them. Claire sat on the porch swing barefoot sipping tea. Her hair in a messy braid wrapped in one of Ethan's old flannel shirts. She smiled as soon as she saw them. "Special delivery," Ethan said. Claire's eyes fell on the plate. She read the syrup. Words once, twice. Her lips parted. A tear rolled down her cheek, then another. She covered her mouth, nodded, and whispered, "Yes, yes, I will." The girls squealed and wrapped their arms around her. Ethan set the tray down, kissed her hair, and pulled something from his hoodie pocket. "Oh, and you might want this." It was a plain cardboard box wrapped in a crooked ribbon. Claire opened it slowly. Inside were her flats, the same ones ruined, with orange juice the first day, now scrubbed clean, stitched at the seam. Tucked between them, a simple silver ring. Claire let out a soft laugh. "You kept them?" Ethan shrugged. "Figured maybe one day you'd want to remember how it started." "I never forgot," she said. "Not even for a second." The wedding was small. No hall, no orchestra, no glittering gown. Just their backyard. Wild flowers in jars, chairs borrowed from neighbors, and two flower girls who insisted on also being ring bearers. Claire wore a soft cream dress, hair down, feet bare. Transparency pucks sang from both shoulders. Ethan wore the same shirt he'd worn for Pancake Day, the one she said made him look dangerously domestic. They stood beneath a wooden arch strung with fairy lights, hands clasped, eyes full. Lily and Mia passed them the rings with solemn little faces, then burst into giggles when Claire winked. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," the girls shouted, "Avui," and everyone laughed. As they walked back through petals tossed in the air, Claire looked back at the crowd, then forward toward the home where everything began. The worn kitchen chairs, the messy lawn, the girls chasing butterflies, and the man who once believed nothing could surprise him. Again, everything had changed. In the final scene, Claire's voice narrates over soft piano. "I was supposed to prove I could lead a company, but I learned something better. How to love a family and be loved back. In the end, it wasn't the money or the title or the legacy that mattered. It was this: pancakes, sticky hands, forgiveness, a backyard wedding, a life a little messy, but more than enough." And that was the story of single dad hired a babysitter for his twin daughters, unaware she was the CEO's daughter in disguise. A journey of love, healing, and unexpected family. If it touched your heart, subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories for more emotional and inspiring tales. And don't forget to tap the hype button to support more stories that truly matter. Thanks for watching. Stay kind. Stay open. You never know who might walk into your life and change everything.